In this session we're going to look at how you might clean up the names of your clients within CRMHaven. Now the way we clean clients is coming down here, clicking on the option menu and choosing clean clients. Now we've already seen where we can come along and change the case, so you could change the case of people's first names, last names, that sort of stuff to being title case or however you may want it to be. But we're now going to have a look at this thing full name here. What this will do is it'll have a look at the salutation, that's the Mr, Mrs, Ms, that type of name at the start, their first name, their initial, their last name, and work out if the client full name as defined, which is worked out as a formula behind the scenes for CRMHaven, doesn't match what the individual components are, and it'll offer to fix them up. So if we click on preview here, it'll go off and find all of those within the, I've got it set to the whole database, all 822 records, and it's come back and said that there are two. One where you've got the name Mr. May have been missing, and it's gone and offered because it was Bob to go and put that in, or Johnny to go and put it as Mr, and because that has now made a discontinuity with the client name, it's offering to put the client name back together again. Now these items are missing in the middle because there's no actual change to them, so it's showing you what items will be different from before to now. So it's the updating the client name and the salutation. Now there's also a checkbox here. By default, CRMHaven will only check for the salutations if the salutations are currently blank and offer to fill them in. Now it is possible to uncheck this, and now what it's going to do is go off, and even if the salutation has a name, a Mr or Mrs or Ms or whatever in there, it's going to look up a table based on people's first names, common first names. It's got over 1,000 first names in there, and if it thinks that the name that the salutation you've got doesn't match the person's first name, so if you had a Mrs. Bob or Mrs. Johnny, then that would be where one of the items that it would come up and flag. So let's, with this checked off, click on preview now, so it should come up with more items than just those two, and there we go. It's got the two that we had before, plus it's coming along and saying, okay, that we've got an Alison on the system who presumably has a Mr or something in there. If something's Mrs, or that's fine, or as long as it's a female entry, that'll be fine. If it was blank or Mr and yet it's a female name, it's going to suggest Ms because it doesn't know whether the person's married or not. Okay, so what it's offering there is that we've got a Tom there who should be a Mr, may have been Ms. Tom, Miss entered there. We've got an Alison, which is a girl's name, should be as in the female form. Kim can vary. You can have a Mr. Kim, so that would probably be one that you'd want to turn off. So I'll just click on turn off here since it's a bit ambiguous. Valerie is always a female's name, and so that is that presumably was Mr. Valerie, and so that's offering to change. Now there will be a number of names that it deliberately leaves out. So for example, if you have a Lindsay or a Robin or a Chris, they're very hard to tell whether which gender they are. It will come up and offer those for suggestions, or and they're the sort of things that you may want to turn off and not update. But anyway, it's a good check. It can go through tens of thousands of contacts in only a few seconds and work out to see if, based on common names, whether you've got the correct salutation in there. If it can't find the name in its list, it doesn't bother coming up to make a suggestion. When you're happy with the changes it's suggesting here, you click on the update button, and that will update the database with these changes. So that's how we clean up the full name, the person's name and salutation within CRMHaven. I hope you find that useful. Thank you and goodbye.